and especially I'll talk about that product you might have heard about that's called Interform. So the agenda for today is a little introduction. Why are we even talking about output management? Because why don't we just click print and everything just happens automatically? Why am I talking about Interform? What difference does that make? Because we do have, at least in M3 Cloud or in LN, we do have standard functionality for output. So why are we even talking about Interform? Then I'll talk a little bit about the Interform M3 package, so specific for the M3 users here. And then I'll talk a little about LN, and then an open mic, just ask any questions. And as Lena said, if you have questions during the presentation, just raise the hand and I'll try to answer that. As Lena said, my name is Hans Müller Hansen. I work as a consultant in Columbus. I've been here for 9 years now, but I have more than 30 years of experience with it. I started out working with StreamServe. I've been part of the first cloud projects in Scandinavia doing IDM. And the last few years I've worked, the last 3, almost 4 years, it's been very much focused about Interform. Apart from being a consultant, I'm also lead for our output management competence groups. I try to do things like this, do webinars, drive the innovation and strategy on a lot of things all around output management in Columbus. But before we get deep into what is output management and what is Interform, I would like to share actually a little story about my first job interview into this M3 world, and that was 13 years ago, and I remember that very clearly because my son was just born 2 days before, and my wife and son were still at the hospital, and I went to talk to this job interview, and we talked about output management, and they told me basically they have around 15 customers that they service with output management, and that's the business documents, that's the order confirmation, the invoice, etc., etc. And when I got back to my wife and told her about this, she was like, okay, but if there's only 15 customers and you talk about these few documents, what are you going to do in 6 months from now? Because how hard can it be? It can't be that hard. I mean, just do some invoices. When you've done the invoice, on to the next customer, 15 customers, 20 documents. I mean, half a year, and we're finished. So then we need to kick out some new things. But the thing is, things change. So the world keeps changing. And I'm here now on 13 years plus, and I'm still working with output management, and I still work for the same customers as I started with for 13 years ago. And that's because your business changes all the time. We have outcoming influences. We have internal things that influence what we're doing. So your business, you might merge with other business, you might acquire other businesses, but we also have regulations coming in. One of them was Brexit, for instance. What happened with the Brexit? I had customers that were in panic and they had to change some things on their documents because otherwise they were not compliant. You also change the brand. Many of you might have some marketing that sometimes decide now we need a completely different look and feel on everything, and that also goes to the documents. Then we have all the customers. We're doing the label, especially labels. I see a lot of demands on labels from customer specific demands. We need this kind of barcode because that's how our warehouse works. If I cannot scan that GS1 code, you cannot deliver to us. So all these things all influence because every time somehow it influences the documents. So for me, output is not just a one-time project, but something that keeps changing over time. So For those of you who don't know Interform, I'll just say a few words about Interform as a company. It's a Danish company, and they've been around since '87. So quite an old business in this IT world, or the M3 and LN world. And they manage a lot of printouts every year. They have more than 4,000 installations of the softwares out there. They are all over the world. They work through partners. Columbus is one of their partners, but their main focus is output management. It's all they do. They only have one product. It's called Interform, and they just think output management every single day. And how can you do that? I mean, it might not be the most exciting thing to do output management, but again, the regulations, the new things. I don't know if you heard about PDF UA. I haven't. I don't follow every single EU regulation or what happening in the US on these parts, but Interform actually are on top of that. So that's where I get that news. So that's one of the things we're going to talk about, is that dedication to output management means that they know the technology, they know what's going on. I'm not saying that Info doesn't know that, but they're not dedicated to this particular area in the same way. Now I mentioned Info and Interform. You might have seen there was a webinar in June that Info hosted about the Interform relationship. Interform is now a complementary partner on M3, but the partnership actually goes back to '99. Interform has been servicing Info, LN, LX, XA, etc., for many years. Actually, LN automotive package for labeling that runs on Interform. So Info and Interform, it has a shared install base with more than 800 installations. So now output management, not that exciting. We're grown up with using the computer, using Word, and you have that fine printer icon. When you click that, you have a piece of paper in the printer. That's basically how things are happening. But that's not how it works in a company, in a business. It actually becomes part of the process, because print is much more than just that one document that you're printing. It's all our invoices that is somehow sent through output. Some of them are electronic, some of them are on PDF, and not many do it on paper anymore. But another really crucial part of this is labeling or transportation documents. And you see a picture here to the right with a lot of lorries. What happens if you cannot print out your delivery notes or your CMR documents, or even the package labels? Well, then we'll see the lorries queue up outside the warehouse. Or it could be our production, that we actually need that small label and put that on some of our items. If that's not coming out of the printer, then things stop. We also see an increasing in complexity. So before we had the printout on paper, and that was all, but we actually see more and more demands. We also see many ERP projects actually underestimate how important and how big a task this is. Again, we've grown up with this word and the icon, and just click that one and you have a printout. But here we need to comply with a lot of regulations from many areas. We need to make sure that we deliver both fast and correct data all the time. But I know when you get into an ERP project, you want to, see what happened, how are things, how are the data in the system. And we often see that it's at the very end of a project that we start looking deep into the documents. So We also meet for customers, install base customers that already have a ERP system. It's running. We're not in project. Everything's good. We have an output solution. It ain't broke, so don't fix it. I mean, it ain't broke, so let that one run. But we need to maintain this. We need to make sure that it still runs tomorrow or in a year. So looking into what is the roadmap ahead is really, really important. And then the important thing is output. No one really cares about it or notice that it's going on until it doesn't work anymore. That's when it becomes critical. So it is critical. It's underneath everything we do in our business, but we don't notice it when it's working. So, but again, when it doesn't, we see the things queue up. So to sum up these things, what we've seen from the past till now is we used to be able to just do a printout. Now Infoteam is delivering more than 10 different ways to deliver what we call output. That's print, that's PDF, emails, labels, RFID, e-invoices, lots of ways to communicate with our customers. So that's some of the outer influences we have is the customers want to have this in a certain way, and that's influence. We also see that before we used to have the ERP system, maybe a VMS system delivering some documents, but we actually see more and more applications that has an output need. That also means we get more and more formats, both to deliver to the customers, but also to receive in our system. We see the move from on-prem to the cloud. So that means we need to think about how we're doing output in the cloud, and that's where especially the physical printout on a printer that changes quite a lot. We need to think about how we do that. So, and I'll just skip the next two and then say about the output quality. Before, yeah, it looked good on paper, but now it's really, really important also that we have the correct data on the document, of course. So we get increased complexity. Now the next slide. This is how we used to think about output management. We used to think about it as application focused. So M3 came with an output solution on-prem. It was more or less bundled together with Stream Server. I know a few customers chose something else, but when you're talking output for M3 on-prem, it was Stream Server. When you talk output in cloud, we are talking IDM. That's how it is. Then your VMS system, your CPQ, they might come with their own output applications. Or you might even have multiple ERP systems. So maybe you have Microsoft D365 in another part of your business. That also comes with an output system. But the Infoteam way of thinking of this is to have an output management platform. So that's what you get with the way of thinking is if we have one common place, then we have one place to debug things. We have one tool to learn and understand how to use this, and we can actually channel every single printout you have in your business into the same output management platform. That gives a lot of advantages. So really, if anything from this webinar that you need to think about later today, think about this as being company focused instead of having to learn a tool for every single application you have. Think about we can actually do everything here, and you might even have somewhere where it actually you get what do you call that, a joint benefit of this, because it might actually be that what you have from your VMS system needs to be coordinated with the output from M3. And you can actually put both into the Infoteam solution and have one document wait for the other document to be printed. And then they both come out on the printer at the same time. So yeah, company focused, and think about the options in in that. So what are the challenges? Again, I talk a lot about M3. That's because I know most about M3. I know a little bit about LN. So sorry about the LN guys out there, but I'm gonna say M3 out of habit a lot of time. But what I typically see when we have the standard ERP output functionality, like IDM, is it doesn't go all the way. It's a good product. IDM is great. It can do a lot of things, and it can do way more than I actually thought it would from the beginning. But it doesn't go all the way for many customers. You always have some extra things you want to do, and you're tied into that flow that Info has already decided upon. So if you cannot set it up in the programs in M3, you cannot have that extra printout for an additional thing. So there are parameters for the output that you cannot control inside M3. So we see that a lot, that customers actually have request functionality that goes out of what IDM for M3 can do normally. So, but also our requirements, I mentioned it before, we might have a VMS system. We might have a PIM system. We might need to pull data from additional sources. So the ERP system is not everything. We also have other things. Another really big challenge for many customers is performance. It's important that we deliver on time, depending on your business. If we're talking emails, it doesn't really matter if it's in 5 or 25 seconds or maybe even 2 minutes from now. But if we're talking about that label for a shipment or for the product in the production line, then we cannot wait 30 seconds for that one. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. And then we should think about not everything is in cloud. We still have, our physical printers are still in our network, and we might still have other things that is not cloud. But when we see Info ERP systems on the cloud suite, everything is running in the cloud, but that doesn't meet all customers' requirements. So control. I also see customers who lose track of what's actually going on. What's the process? One thing is not being able to influence it, but also to actually be in control and know that this is going on. How are we monitoring the log, for instance? And finally, we see a lot of customers struggling with learning how to use the tools. So that's also an important thing. So when we look into when standard is not enough, when are we moving from doing the out of the box print out and have to do other things? Well, that's when we start. Let's say you need things to be printed in certain order. Then the ERP M3 IDM ways of doing it is very limited. If you don't have another sorting order in your program in M3, then you cannot rearrange everything in the printout. So you need to have a tool that can actually go in and maybe change the order of the item lines on a printout. Another thing at the moment is what's called PDF UA. I don't know if you heard about it, but it's actually EU regulation about accessibility into the documents. Basically, the idea is that if you're blind, you should be able to have the computer read that document. The invoice you received, you should have a computer that could navigate through that. That requires special things. That requires tagging into each element and say this is a headline for the table, saying this is the item number column, etc., etc. And so these are regulations that we see coming in. There's also one in the US, and this is one of the things about Interform is I didn't hear about it before Interform told me about this, and that they are now compliant with this, that we could actually use this in the documents. Another advanced capability would be to embed documents into your into other documents. That could be a reminder, a payment reminder. You could actually put all your invoices into that into that PDF file and send it to the customer. So that means that your accountant will not have all that so-called, but can you please send me another copy of the invoice? Well, you already have that because it's embedded together with the reminder. CAD drawings into your documents, labels, barcodes, RFID, all these kind of things are considered advanced capabilities in my book. So performance. The cloud way of doing printouts is to create a PDF file and then distribute that one. And that's good for emails. On emails, we don't need that speed. Of course, it's not in days, but it might be in seconds or minutes. But when we need that immediate printout on our Zebra printers, then a PDF file is not good enough. But we also look at performance on how fast can we actually adapt and do changes. How long would it take a consultant to do things? So it's really important to look at what is the process, how can we develop new things. And then performance is different in cloud and on-prem. So that is all things we need to think on. How can we actually change and optimize that? So I have a small example here, and that is our label printout. So I mentioned in cloud, we are doing a PDF file in IDM. And then that PDF file is transferred through the enterprise connector on-prem, and it's spooled out to a printer, and the printer needs to read a barcode as an image and then print that one. The Interform way of doing this is to actually talk with the printer directly and in the printer's own language. It's called CPL when we talk about Zebra printers. And what difference does this make? Well, first of all, it's much smaller amount of data that we're sending. So it's much faster. But it also means that the data we're sending is not an image of the barcode, but it's actually a command that tells the printer how to print this barcode. And then the printer knows how to do that. And that gives you, first of all, reduced time to do the print, but it also optimizes the quality of the printout. The barcode is sharp because the printer is generating the barcode. So I was visiting a customer doing a proof of concept last Monday, and they've been doing a lot of things on IDM, and they have these product labels, and it needs to be only 1.5 centimeters high, and they need to have the data matrix code. And the output consultants using IDM, they spent a long time setting it up and even having a printout. But when they finally did the printout, they could not scan that data matrix code. It was too small. So I was there and I was on site. Half an hour later, we did the first printout with the data matrix code, same data and everything, and it was spot on. They could scan it. 3 people jumping up with their phones to actually scan this one and see, and it was spot on. And the only difference, because the labels looks the same more or less, but the difference is the way we communicate. So that's really important, especially if labels are a big thing for you. My next example is a bit about when we go out of our ERP system. And as mentioned before, we have our VMS systems that might not be in for Cloud Suite. It might be another system. We might have websites, PIM systems, CPQ systems. I mean, we have many systems around, but sometimes these systems are actually need somehow to sync. together. So what capabilities do we have? With a native cloud suite, you could, of course, use Iron API, connect things, do data flows, and trigger things. And you can also trigger things in IDM at a certain time. But when you think about that picture I showed you before with Infoteam as an output management platform, then we can actually coordinate things and have things sync in there, and we can use that to actually pull data at the right time from the right system. So this is a US customer called Waterworks, and they set up a printout process for the labels. They're using FedEx for all the shipments. So, and FedEx, they want them to print their label. So FedEx has a web portal, and you can just log into the web portal. You can download a PDF file from there, and then you can do the printout and put that on your box. But you don't want a person to do that. So what they did is connect this with M3. So when they complete a delivery in M3, it sends a trigger to Infoteam with an information this delivery is now finished. So please give us the label. And instead of M3 sending the MWS 485, I think we're using many times for address labels, instead of doing that, it just sends the delivery information or the shipment information, and then Infoteam is doing the API call, gets that PDF file. It's actually encoded as base64. We pull that down to Infoteam, decode that one, and do the printout on the printer as part of that. So that layout is not something the customer has control of. That's something that FedEx is doing. But it's Infoteam that still think this as a document and do the pull of the label into their system and make sure it's printed in the right printer at the right time. So Infoteam as a platform, we basically have three layers to work with. We have a designer. It's all used inside our browser. So we have the designer where we design documents, position the elements. We have all the repeating sections, so we need to repeat for each line we have on an order, for instance. So a pretty cool designer where we can move things around and design things pretty fast. Under the designer, we have workflows, and the workflow consists of an input and an output, and in between we can do stuff with our data file. So the input connector, we connect that to M3 or to all the other systems that we want to push data into Infoteam or do like a scheduled input, that things are going to happen once a day, that it looks into a database and finds some information and then triggers our start of a workflow. And on the other end of these workflows, we have the delivery. That's where we connect with IDM. That's where we connect with our mail server and send out the mails. But in between, we decide what's going on. And that's where I talk about control, because you see the middle layer here where you see some boxes after each other, and that's the visual way to see what's going on. So here we could actually do a split and say, in these cases, we want to do something else. We want to archive on an FTP server along as with the IDM setup. So all these ways of doing it. And then, of course, underneath everything is the formats. That is the different kind of output types, both the output format, PDF files, printing in different PCL, CPL language, or doing the RFID. So that's technology that's underneath everything. but also the formats. Is it an XML file we receive? Is it a JSON? Is it a flat file or CSV file? So all these things put together, and then we can create many kinds of layouts. It's also to be said an output type could also be an XML file that we deliver. So use that for e-invoicing, of course. So it's much more than just, well, it is turning data into documents, but it's also how we actually get that to the right person. Great. So when we look specifically for M3, what we've done for our M3 customers is to pre-pack some content. So we have a set way of doing the M3 integration and also to do the IDM integration so that we use IDM to archive our printouts. So when we built this package, we said everything needs to be connected the right way, and we need to see it. So we have a forms package with all the documents, and we have 150 documents now, and a few of the reports. That's one of the things we can install Interform together with IDM or together with StreamServe and let them run in parallel. You don't have to choose one or the other. You can actually do like a hybrid between things. But we have this forms package with 150 documents and a few reports. We are adding reports all the time on request, but we don't want to do reports that people are not using. So we do that on request. We have a Word template converter. That means we can take the IDM Word template and actually convert that into Interform document. And that's how we built our whole forms package. We took all Info's IDM documents and we just converted those. That also means if you're already in cloud and you're using IDM in cloud, but you actually want to start doing some of the more advanced stuff, you want some of the advantages of Interform, then we can take your order confirmation in IDM that you spent many hours to design and have to work the way you want, and we can actually convert that to an Interform template using this conversion tool. The same goes for PDF files. If you have a PDF file where you need it to look spot on, exact the same, we could take that PDF file and scan that into Interform, and then it would create the same design with the lines, with the logo on exact spots, and then you can remap the fields into your XML structure and say this is how it's going to look. And I should have brought that example, but I did this for a Danish customer who they have they wanted to use Interform, but they didn't really know how to get it into their company, because one of the big challenges is when it's not broken, don't fix it kind of things. And the M3 documents are printing today, they're on-prem, but they get their invoice, and it was really hard to justify why should we invest in something else to have an invoice that looks and behaves the same way as the one we already have. So why should we just switch this? So they were looking for other places where it could bring value to the business. And one of them were the digital version of their product. They want to have technical data sheets, and they want some compliance documents around the documents or around the products to be in their customer portal. And all that data, some of it came from M3, some of it came from their PIM system. But they said, can you show us how we could use Interform to do this? And we did that, and we're actually pulling all the data from a data warehouse every night, and we're generating 1,500 technical data sheets that's updated with data, images pulled from their SharePoint, where marketing is is doing all the photos for these technical data sheets. It's marketing who controls that. They just put everything in SharePoint. The ERP guys maintain M3 with the information about that, and then we have someone maintaining the PIM system. But Infoform just pulls that information every single night and put it in a technical data sheet and pushes it to their web portal. But what I want to say about this is during that project, they realized they also had these compliance documents, and they have 93 different templates on compliance. So each item number is tied to one of these 93 templates. So we just connected those two. And how long would it take to take 93 two-page documents and have them having dynamic data and have it look exactly as before? Well, I can tell you it takes 10 hours because that's how we did it. 10 hours to build a flow that pulls the data and puts the data into those specific fields. But we used a PDF template converter to do that job. So we could take the PDF, it looks spot on, and we pointed out the places where it was item specific, and then we had that replaced. So this runs every night, 1,500 documents or items, selecting the right compliance document and put it all in the customer portal. So another way of thinking, and this is also part of the way we think about Interform, is you're not alone. We want a community around this. So we have set up a user group for M3 Interform customers where we have Teams call. It says once a month. It's more like one every 2 months. But we actually meet up, and I mean there's 10 new people every time. So it's really growing the community about this, and we share ideas, we share how to do things, and it's all about making the whole package better for everyone. So since we started this user group 1.5 years ago, we had more than 20 features that was put into Interform that all came from this community. So 20 features where customers were saying, why can't Interform do it like this? Or maybe we should do it in a slightly different way. Or I have this kind of need. Could Interform do it? No, not today, but let's build it, and because it's a really good idea. So we actually can influence the roadmap of the platform and where it goes. I don't know if you already scanned the QR code. If not, just do it, and you can sign up. And we also have potential customers, so you don't need to buy Interform to get access to this. It could also be if it's of great interest to you. Good. I promised to talk a little to the Info-LN customers as well. And LN is not my strong side. But as mentioned in the info slide I had earlier, Interform has been a solution partner for a long, long time, actually since 99. And they built the LN automotive package. They also share a joint roadmap with Info on how to do this. And I just heard last week there's a new standard integration coming to Info-LN that will be released in the April release, and it will be presented on the LN Connect conference in Amsterdam by the end of this month. So if any of you are traveling to Amsterdam, you should be able to find Interform together with Info at that conference. So there are ways also for LN, and you'll get a direct integration into Interform there. But apart from that, you should also see, and now I'm repeating myself, you should still see output management as a process for your business and not just for the ERP system. So you also have the VMS system or the PIM system or the whatever system, you know, where you need to do printouts. So you can actually put it all together. So every document is a customer touch point. Well, the customer see our things every day. So really see the documents also as a way to reach out to your customers. And if it's not professional, if it's not, then it kind of shines on you, and we can get a wrong impression of your company. So documents are important. Just want to share a few logos with you. All over the world, we have, I don't know, around 25 at least who bought the M3 packets. Even more that don't have the package but are still using Interform together with Info and together with so the install base 400 or 800 it was. The M3 packets Interform, it's sold through partners all over the world. And Columbus, we have trained consultants also in most of the world, India, Europe, US, and Chile. So things are speeding up. Yeah, I think I have 2 or 3 new customers coming in before New Year. So it's, and then I know other partners are selling also. So it's really fast at the moment. So what do they say? We have Adam from Waterworks. Waterworks set out on a cloud project. They with one of Interform's partners in the US, and they found out that IDM didn't really stand the test. And you see here they value how flexible and easy it is to use compared to the steep learning curve of doing documents in IDM or M3's document management tool. So they have taken advantages of a lot of the functionality. And the flow I showed you about the FedEx, that was Adam who designed that one and had that one work. So that's a really nice statement from Adam. But as I mentioned, we are not the only partner doing this. We also see others, our Columbus competitors, that is actually taking in Interform. And one of them is Ida Axelsson, a former colleague of mine. She's from Sweden. And she texted me one day, and I have it in Swedish at the top. She has more than 20 years of experience with StreamServe, so she knows what she's doing. But she texted me this one, that she had a solution she's done in StreamServe, almost a week to do, and a lot of things about repeating things and keeping track of and resorting and stuff. And she did that in 2 hours in Interform. So it's not just me, it's also experienced output consultants that do this. And that was actually the end. So now, questions, please.
Thank you, Hans. So feel free, everybody, if you have any questions. Oh, doesn't sound like it is something, but if you have questions afterwards and you find out that you have to get in touch with Hans,
Yeah,
you have his email address, and you can always contact me as well, so I can help you.
I actually see a raised hand by Andreas.
Okay. Yep.
Yes.
Then
Hello, Hans. I just wanted to thank you for the presentation, and then also ask you. You mentioned using the solution and thinking of it as a company solution, not an application-based solution. So could you perhaps share a little bit on how your experience has been using it corporate setup, where you have multiple dozens of legal entities?
Yeah. When we set this up with M3, with the M3 package, you actually get a multi-tenant license. So that means on your installation, you can set up multiple tenants. So that's one way of doing it, separated and actually have those as legal entity silos inside Interform. It's still the same platform. You could have the same group of people who maintain the documents. But you can also set up these connections, and then you can do an XSLT conversion of your incoming data. So that means you can actually transform, if you have some D365 data, you have some M3 data, you could actually choose to go with a internal standard XML structure and do your design based on that. Then you do a transformation of those two documents into a common base XML structure, and then do your design based on that one. That's, for instance, how the Interform e-invoicing solution works, is that they have this internal Interform format, and then they map the ERP to that format, and then they have remapped that format to the PEPPOL, to the Zugfert, to the X-Rechnung, whatever all these different e-invoicing formats works. But instead of being in the e-invoicing format, it could also be a layout. So you could that way pull from multiple ERP systems. New Wave Group in Sweden, I believe they're running Interform. I believe it was around 50 companies they have. Right now, I think they have 15 that's inside Interform, but using multiple ERP systems, all pushed into the same one. Yeah. Was that answer enough?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
How many legal entities are you thinking about? And different systems?
We are using output management across M3, of course, for many today vast different output purposes. But I was thinking mainly in relation to our warehouse system, pick and pack, labeling for shipments, and we have, I think, at least there's a main distributor, internal distributor, which is a legal entity, of course, and we have at least some 20 mid 20 something retail companies who use all of them use some of the same formatting, but then of course an output management document. So there's some load balancing there as well. But of course also some individual output management types. Or output document types.
But I would probably let's say it's a little simple like labels, and you want the label to be the same regardless where you print it from, have the same look and feel. Yeah, then you could just say, oh, I'm saying M3 because that's what I do most of the time. We want the M3 to be our in-house format, so the XML structure looking like that, and then you can take from your VMS system and actually transform that into something that looks like the package label, for instance, from M3, and then you can run it on the same layout. So, yeah. Any more questions? Doesn't seem like it. You have my email. Just reach out. And if you need a one-to-one where we might dig deeper in, I didn't show you anything live or anything, but if you want, just reach out anytime and we can set up a one-to-one and I can show you. Also, if you have, I mean, the PDF migration tool we have, you can send me an XML and the PDF file and I'll show you what we can do with that magic in a very little time. So yeah, happy to do proof of concepts as well. So great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hans. Thanks for your help. And to all of you, have a nice weekend. And some of you is probably participate in the webinar on Monday. So there's still possibilities to join it. Okay.
Okay.
Bye
Bye.
there. Bye.